Leonardo DiCaprio, once a teen heartthrob and beloved up-and-comer, now tends to make people, at least my age cohort of millennials who grew up with him, do a double take, and not in a good way. And it's not hard to figure out why. In a post-Me Too and Heard vs. Depp world, the Academy Award-winning actor is now 50 years old and still dating young women who are half his age. We've all seen this infographic of how he tends to cut off relationships once his girlfriends turn 25, though he is still dating his current girlfriend, Victoria Soretti, who is 26 and will be 27 this June. So I guess that makes this Kenan Thompson 2023 joke from the Emmys obsolete.
Zendaya just turned 26 last week. Happy birthday, happy birthday. 26 is a weird age in Hollywood. I mean, you're young enough to play a high school student, but you're too old to date Leonardo DiCaprio.
In other words, Leonardo DiCaprio's lifestyle has been an open secret and clowned on by the internet, specifically in this recurring meme that shows Pedro Pascal with co-star Bella Ramsey, who are the same ages as when Leo meets his girlfriends. Though it should be noted that he did date Gigi Hadid for a few months when she was 27, so I guess that makes this whole video defunct. Take that, Leo haters. And plus, maybe it's the girls who leave him once they hit their mid-20s and don't want to be attached to an old grungy man anymore. Maybe it's them using him for a fling. And he's of course fine with that. They go into it knowing neither of them want to get married and settle down, so if everything's above board, what's the problem? And you know, maybe there isn't any problem. Isn't he just living his best life? Isn't he just doing what every straight guy's fantasy is, dating model after model, not settling down, being surrounded by beauty and wealth and youth, and now acting and producing whenever he feels like? Just let him live his life, I guess, right? And I guess to some degree that's fine, but for me personally, it just can't help but make me wonder how he actually views women. And if any of this would be fine if he was just a regular guy who didn't have fame, money, and status. Like, would a 50-year-old guy who wasn't a rich actor not be judged for dating a 21-year-old? I think the only reason we don't question it as much or only make self-aware jokes about it is because he's famous. So of course he's going to indulge himself and that young women are going to want to be around him, at least for a short while. It just makes sense. It's Hollywood. At least he's not going into these relationships with any pretense of longevity. He's better than Jackie Chan, who disowned his child before she was even born and never assumed any paternal responsibility. He's better than the hundreds, if not millions, of other men around the world who continue to lie and cheat while married with kids. I know so many men who have effed up women's lives, men who would have been so much better off if they had just never tried to play house. Men who were not made for marriage but did it anyway just to screw the women and children in their lives over. Some people aren't made to have a nuclear family, and honestly the nuclear family only serves capitalism, and wouldn't it be better for everyone if men like that just lived a little more like Leo and just serially dated women with no intention of settling down as long as the women were okay with it too? And I guess we could come to that conclusion, but I don't know, maybe it's just me, but when I see a 50-year-old man dating a 20-something-year-old, it gives me the ick. And maybe again, it's all okay and they're in love, or maybe it's just a fling and everything's fine. We'll never know the ins and outs of these relationships, but I think on a larger scale, it says something about him as a person who, instead of dating women his age, doesn't. He just doesn't find them attractive or has anything in common with them, or maybe he's just really juvenile and wants to live out this Hugh Hefner thing because that's what he grew up with as being the pinnacle of manhood or whatever, who knows. And ageism is so strong that most people don't question his actions because old women just aren't attractive. Either way, his lifestyle and relationships just don't make much sense to me. I can understand it from the woman's perspective as it's just his MO by now. We're just gonna date and then break up and that's fine. But also I feel like it's taking advantage of young people's naivete in a way. Like, maybe I can change him. Maybe I'll be the one he sticks with. It's just a very weird mindset to go into a relationship with, knowing his past and not knowing if you're going to be the one to change him or hoping he changes his mind. I just think 50-plus-year-olds should stay away from young women in their 20s, like get a job and stay away from her. Leo's dating habits also echo a long history in Hollywood of older men serially dating women in their early 20s and even late or mid-teens. Leo reminds me so much of Charlie Chaplin, who dated and later married women in their teens due to the fact that back in the day you couldn't date and then not marry someone, especially if they were pregnant or suspected of being pregnant. Chaplin's first wife, Mildred Harris, was only 16 when they wed and he was 29. His second marriage was to Lita Gray, who was 16 when he was 35, and they met during her childhood. His third marriage was to Paulette Goddard, who was 21 and he was 47, and his final marriage was to Una O'Neill when she was 18 and he was 54. I guess Chaplin was just living his best life and Una was the lucky girl and was the one. And even more recently, Elizabeth Gillies from Victorious ended up marrying a man, Michelle Corcoran, who she met when she was 16 and he was 36, and a composer for the show, WTF. Though I should note that as of this video, DiCaprio has not dated anyone under legal age, so these examples are not a one-to-one comparison, but rather examples of how normalized it is to date women and girls half your age in this industry and how rarely it's questioned. And I'm not saying Leo needs to settle down and get married to any of these women or that these women want to marry him. Like I said, some men and women for that matter are not cut out for the nuclear family life and monogamy. On the other hand, why can't he again find women his own age to date? What does that say about him? When I see Leo in movies now like Don't Look Up and Killers of the Flower Moon, I find it so hard to actually believe he's in love with his co-stars when he serially dates models who are 23 years old. Like, does he even find these women of his own age attractive? Some might argue it's again only natural for men to want to keep dating young women as they get older because that's what they find attractive, but I don't think that's necessarily normal, as women are told to find older men attractive despite their age. Not to mention there are older men who find older women and women their age attractive. It's not some alien notion. Older women are beautiful, and women are more than their appearance. Women have minds and thoughts, feelings and dreams and whole worlds inside of them and are more than just their body, but to many men they could care less about those. As satirized in A Girl Worth Fighting For, most men just don't respect women. They want arm candy. They want someone to boost their ego, to cook for them and baby them. His relationship to women makes me wonder if he only views women as status symbols, as people he can have and buy because of his status. How does he actually view women? And again, nothing too damning has ever come out about him concerning these relationships, so I don't know, but legality doesn't equal morality. It might be legal for him to do this, but morally it just makes him look weird, like the creepy uncle who's trying to be young and hip with the kids in the family. Like, what's your problem? Why do you want to be in romantic relationships with women from a totally different generation and upbringing? That doesn't mean that young and old people can't find common ground and have nothing to say to each other, nor do I want to mischaracterize these models as bimbos or with nothing of value to say, nor does this mean that women also have to have favorite philosophers. I'm looking at you, Woody Allen.
What?
Well, I don't know. Who's your favorite philosopher?
I haven't got one. I don't know any. Who's yours?
Oh, I like them all.
Who?
All your basic philosophers.
Who?
Just all of them.
I don't know their names, though. What are their names?
Oh, there's a host of them.
But rather, what does he have to say to these girls? What could he possibly bring to the conversation? I guess it's fun to party with him if you're into that, but I just don't know how this whole thing works other than he has money and he's okay with people liking him simply because of that, because he's a shallow person, which again is his prerogative, it's his life, but I also think it's not wrong for us to shame him for that. There's also been a huge cultural shift since fourth wave feminism and the Me Too movement and Jeffrey Epstein and even the Heard versus Depp trial, where there's concern for young women in the entertainment industry with older men and their safety. So many disturbing stories have been shared about women, so I don't want to lump Leo in with like actual criminals, and I honestly hope nothing ever comes out against him because that would mean he has hurt people in his care. But again, he just reminds me of Charlie Chaplin, or of a Charlie Chaplin type, who never did anything illegal. I mean, Chaplin did marry his second wife in Mexico because in California, what he was doing was considered statutory rape. But rather, when I make that comparison, it's more like Chaplin's persona was so and is still lovable and remembered so fondly that it's hard to really talk negatively about him. And the same thing goes for Leo, who came of age in the industry, was a heartthrob, people have great nostalgia for him, wanted him to win that Oscar, though some people find his acting off-putting, I never did. He's made environmentalism and caring about humanity his brand, so it's hard for people to criticize him beyond jokes about how he views women over 25. And I just want to make it clear here, you're not a bad person if you like Leo's performances and movies, but rather the point of this video and videos like it are to show that humans are too complicated to be put on a pedestal, even though they so often are. And this is just me with my tinfoil hat on, but it's almost as if he crafted his public persona in such a way for people to be more likely to defend his more dubious actions on purpose. In the end, we can all take a joke, but to think seriously about what he's been doing for a long time and what it says about masculinity and the entertainment industry, as well as what it says about how we view women of all ages, is a different story. In 2016, Tina Fey, a purported feminist, went on the Howard Stern show and defended Leonardo DiCaprio against misogyny allegations, saying, "Is it misogynistic to sleep with a bunch of women who want to sleep with you?" "No," Fey posed to the radio host. Stern continued pressing by questioning the comedic actress a fourth time. "Isn't it misogynistic when you know you're a man of power and you know that these girls are all looking for something to use you for? Okay, they want the power and you use them for their beauty." About DiCaprio being misogynistic. "I don't think it's misogynistic, no. I think that everybody there is up for it," said Faye in defense of the actor, joking, "I think also because he's still cute, so there's that." So in the rest of this video, I want to delve into DiCaprio's star persona and how that helped shape public opinion of him and helped shield him from accusations of misogyny, and then we'll get into some other controversies surrounding him other than his dating life. And before we start, I want to give a shout out to KylaSays, whose own incredible videos inspired this one, much like my video about Jackie Chan. So go check out her channel and subscribe if you haven't already. So without further ado, let's go. Part 1, The Underdog. And no, I'm not talking about the 2007 Disney movie starring a talking dog and Kyle Massey's rap, "It's a Dog," but rather Leonardo DiCaprio. DiCaprio grew up financially strained, but still wanted to make it as an actor. At 14, he began appearing in several commercials for Matchbox cars, which he calls his first role. DiCaprio later appeared in commercials for Kraft Singles, Bubble Yum, and Apple Jacks. He then found it hard to sign with an agency because they wanted to Americanize his name, which he declined to do. Additionally, he was seen as a dime a dozen, just another kid with blonde hair. It wasn't until a talent agent, who knew his mother's friend, recommended him to casting directors that DiCaprio secured roles in about 20 commercials. After he was signed, he appeared in the movie Critters 3, and then had a role in the short-lived television series Parenthood, and played a recurring character in Growing Pains. Then came This Boy's Life. And then in 1993, when he was 19 years old, he got his big break with the role of Arnold Grape, the developmentally disabled younger brother to Johnny Depp's Gilbert Grape. Lace Hallstrom, the director of the film, noted in this 1993 New York Times article, "Up-and-coming Leonardo DiCaprio, the actor is boyishly handsome and that's a liability." Leonardo's abilities were there in the first audition. All the actors who were auditioning for Arnie had to watch the same tape of a developmentally disabled boy. Leonardo was the only one who had picked up on the essentials, the body mannerisms, and integrated them. He was the most observant. Then, on the shoot, Leonardo was able to switch on and off very quickly. When he was told that he had the part, Mr. DiCaprio responded by doing cartwheels. "You get the impression that he's a goofy mall kid," says Peter Hedges, who wrote the novel the screenplay is based on. But the editor could rarely find a single frame of film where Leonardo dropped out of being Arnie. As for life post Gilbert Grape, Mr. DiCaprio says, "It's been a busy time for Leo. Last week, he had to make a quick decision about whether to play Gene Hackman's illegitimate son in Sam Raimi's new movie, The Quick and the Dead, which had already begun filming in Arizona with Sharon Stone. He took the part. His closing shot, 'All you math teachers who've been scolding me all my life, haha, I laugh,' which echoes the fact that he dropped out of high school, later earning a GED, and disliked public school. So pretty quickly, DiCaprio's career took off, despite him being written off as too ordinary, read White and Blonde, to make him interesting. He took a transformative role, and it paid off. And since then, he's been known for his underdog/someone you can root for roles. He rarely plays a villain, and even when he does, he looks good doing it and still brings a charm that makes him someone you love to hate, like in Django Unchained, The Wolf of Wall Street, Shutter Island, Revolutionary Road, and Killers of the Flower Moon. Post Romeo plus Juliet and Titanic, he became a teen heartthrob and again played sympathetic characters like the runaway teen in Catch Me If You Can and the self-sacrificing Danny in Blood Diamond. He also dated according to his new star status. He was attached to supermodel Gisele Bündchen when she was just 18 and he was 25, and they dated until he was 30. I think another physical aspect that helped him go under the radar as far as his dating preferences go is that for a long time, he looked much younger than he was. For example, he was able to play a kid in Catch Me If You Can despite being in his late 20s.
He's a kid. Our unsub is a kid. That's why we couldn't match his prints. That's why he doesn't have a record.
As a young adult, he had very youthful features and a very soft face. Perfect boy band face material. But as an adult, his face looks very different, which is fine. I want to be careful here to not age shame him based on his looks, because it's okay to get old and look your age, but I think for him it might be an insecurity due to the fact that he was known for his looks and his youth. So much so that his boyishly handsome looks were seen as a liability. And now it's a 50-year-old, and as he aged in general, he wants to maintain his youthful youthfulness despite his appearance, which is okay, we're all kids at heart, but most of us don't also feel the need to be surrounded by women and partners who could be our kids. But his insecurity about his age seemingly leads him to dating women who remind him of his past when he was stereotypically young and beautiful. It's actually kind of sad that he continues to live out his midlife crisis and that he seemingly hasn't been able to mature due to coming of age in the industry, but also maybe he needs actual help that an extravagant lifestyle won't fix. You search in every model's bed for something greater, is right, Taylor. He continued to play likable characters in Inception and The Great Gatsby, as well as villains with charm, if you will, or antagonists that can be redeemed, like in Don't Look Up. And for these roles, he's become a 7-time Academy Award nominee, finally winning in 2016 for The Revenant. He has his own production company, Appian Way, which was founded in 2004 when he was just 30 years old. Personally, I think the roles he picks are strategic, and that's not like some conspiracy thing. I think all roles any actor picks are important for their public persona, such as acting against type or acting with type and typecasting, etc., in order to show range or capability and depth. But for Leo, his roles as underdogs and as lovable and or redeemable villains helps his public persona stay adored and uncriticized. He's also been very careful to not really have a public life as an adult. He rarely gives interviews or makes public appearances, which is fine. He has a right to privacy, and he's become such a big star now, he doesn't really need to do all that. But I also think it's a smart move in order to not really confront criticism or be put on the hot seat about the more contentious aspects of his life. Part 2, Controversies. So in this section, I'm not going to talk about his dating preferences because I think we've gotten into that enough in the intro. Instead, I'm going to talk about some things that are a bit forgotten to time. Firstly, something I didn't know was that Leo got 17 stitches on his face after a model, Aretha Wilson, then 35, in 2005, hit him in the face with a broken bottle. And this isn't really a controversy, it's just Leo being a legit victim of a crime. Miss Wilson was accused of sneaking into a party hosted by Paris Hilton's former boyfriend, Rick Salomon, and attacking the actor with a bottle. Police said she had mistaken DiCaprio for a former boyfriend. In 2010, the case went forward and they reached a deal with the judge before a full trial. Wilson, then 40 in 2010, pleaded no contest to assault with a deadly weapon. Miss Wilson's lawyer, Freddie Sayegh, said she was likely to serve 6 months as she had already served a year in jail and would get a reduced sentence for good behavior. DiCaprio did not attend the hearing at the LA court. Sayegh told reporters Miss Wilson was pleased with the outcome, while a prosecutor said DiCaprio was happy with the case and that it was resolved before it went to a full trial. If the case did go to trial, she could have faced 7 years in prison had she been found guilty. Mr. Sayegh said that after his client serves her remaining time in jail, she may be deported back to Canada as Wilson is a Canadian citizen. Honestly, I had no idea about this, even though the case was closed in 2010, but it sounds horrible. Let me know if you knew about this down below. Secondly, Leonardo DiCaprio is known for his stance on climate change, even using his 2016 Oscar acceptance speech time to say that climate change is real and is the most urgent threat to our planet and our lives as humans. And then DiCaprio starred in the 2021 film Don't Look Up, which is about Earth's imminent collapse and is a call to action to do something about the state of the world. And even before then, he's had a long history of caring about the environment, from standing with the Xingu people in Brazil in 2004 to donating $1 million to the Wildlife Conservation Society at Russia's Tiger Summit in 2010 to supporting the protests against the Dakota Access Pipeline in 2016. He's made his stance clear. And in September 2014, UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon designated DiCaprio as a United Nations Messenger of Peace with a focus on climate change. He's even committed to lowering his own giant carbon footprint due to all of his traveling and private yachts and his many vacation homes and private jets, etc., and of course has founded his own foundation to do climate research and to give money to conservation efforts around the globe. And I don't want to diminish what he's done because at least he's not a climate change denying incel and even supports the Democratic Party for whatever that's worth. As of 2018, he's donated at least $100 million to support local ecosystems and to stop global warming. Just in 2021 alone, he pledged $43 million to enact conservation operations across the Galapagos Islands. And again, he takes part in film projects about global awareness, hence Don't Look Up, and even Killers of the Flower Moon. He's politically and environmentally conscious and one of those celebrities who wants to use his voice for good. And I don't want to lessen his contributions, and I do personally believe he really does care about the environment and just doesn't use it as a shield from criticism. tourism. However, we really don't know how dedicated he is to this, considering again how large his own carbon footprint is, which he has said he promises to reduce and is aware of. He drives electric vehicles, but has drawn criticism for his extensive usage of private jets to travel around the globe for both business and pleasure. In 2014, he famously rented the world's 5th largest yacht owned by a UAE oil tycoon to watch the World Cup in Brazil. In case you're wondering, neither the jets nor the yacht run on solar power, but DiCaprio has claimed to be a carbon neutral citizen. What does that mean? A London-based company called Future Forest, which registered carbon neutral as a brand, worked with DiCaprio to estimate his annual carbon dioxide emissions are 11 tons per year. With that information in hand, they planted thousands of trees, creating the Leonardo DiCaprio Forest in Mexico to offset his carbon dioxide emissions. Don't get me wrong, I think planting forests is a great idea, writes chemical engineer Robert Rapier of Forbes, but the notion that DiCaprio's carbon emissions are 11 tons per year is nonsense. According to the World Bank, per capita carbon dioxide emissions in the US are about 19 tons per year. That's of course an average, and rich people who take private jets and vacation on yachts have a much higher carbon emissions than average. And I don't want to say that, well, because he isn't doing enough, he should just not do anything. Criticism isn't always helpful, especially since he does seem to throw so much money at different organizations and is really trying to make the biggest difference he can, at least in his mind. And he should do as much as he can as someone with so many more emissions than the average person due to his extravagant lifestyle. At the same time, I think we can still criticize the fact that he's calling for an end to climate change, but still doesn't want to change how he lives his life. I understand that it's not up to individuals to end climate change, but when you're an individual using private jets and boats and who has properties around the world, maybe you could be more self-reflective and transparent about your own usage of fossil fuels and carbon footprint. And that's the hard thing about being a liberal. You want to do the right thing, but also don't want to give up anything in the process. You know there's a problem, but it would mean upending your lifestyle to help remedy it, and that's just too hard. Even stranger is that in 2009 he bought an island, Blackador Cay, for 1.75 million USD off mainland Belize, on which he's set to open an environmentally friendly resort. It's 104 acres, 2.2-mile long stretch sandbar. An avid scuba diver, Mr. DiCaprio first visited Belize in 2005 to swim near its barrier reef. As soon as I got there, I fell in love, said Mr. DiCaprio. Belize is truly unique. It has the second largest coral reef system in the world, and it has some of the most biodiverse marine life, like the manatee population and almost every species of fish you can imagine. Then there are Mayan temples and the culture. He really fell in love with Belize, but how is a for-profit resort going to help them? As of 2021, the resort still hasn't been built due to protests from the people of Belize. Protesters took offense to Leonardo's idea of 116 floating villas built on a platform supported by pylons with artificial reefs, which would destroy the fishing breeding grounds. Groups like Defend Blackador Cay and Bonefish and Tarpon Trust organized campaigns against the resort and reported back that $5 to $15 million would go to living homes, a research station, residence club, and an anti-aging center. For DiCaprio, to label this plan as environmentally conscious is just a sales pitch to a company operator Rebecca Arresio told The Sun. Dr. Dion Chamberlain, representative of Blackador Cay Development Group, said, "No new development on Blackador Cay has occurred. However, rigorous foundational ecological planning and studies have taken place, including a 3-year scientific investigation undertaken to determine the causes of environmental issues on Blackador, including coastal erosion, on-island soil degradation, and ongoing influence of climate change." To counteract the efforts of erosion and soil degradation, a long-term restoration plan was developed and implemented using a variety of hybrid restoration techniques. She continued, "In collaboration with all local stakeholders, the development group made adjustments to the original plans, including removing originally contemplated over-the-water structures to address concerns that were raised. Revised plans remain in preliminary stages." So it looks like they still are going to go ahead with this nonsense resort one day. It's just baffling, but stakeholders want answers, I guess, and Leo promised this, and now he just doesn't want to back out despite being a millionaire without this resort. Lastly, there's his ties to the Wolf of Wall Street production company, Red Granite, whose co-founder is the stepson of the Malaysian Prime Minister, or former Prime Minister, Riza Aziz. The film produced by Red Granite supposedly received illicit financing from the 1MDB Fund, also known as the One Malaysia Fund, which was founded by the country's Prime Minister, Najib Razak, for the purposes of economic development, but now alleged to have been diverted to various less noble ends. In other words, then Prime Minister Razak of Malaysia in 2009 created this fake development fund to improve the lives of the impoverished, and then funneled the money to himself and his family, including his stepson who owns a company who produced The Wolf of Wall Street, to buy diamonds, works of art, and property. DiCaprio comes into this as his associate, Malaysian financier and art collector Joe Low had considerable influence on the fund, though he had no official position. In 2016, the U.S. Department of Justice's Anti-Money Laundering Division filed a 250-page complaint seeking forfeiture of $540 million in assets that it says were bought with money stolen from the 1MDB fund, also known as the One Malaysia Development Berhad Fund, and entities that it controlled. These include upwards of $100 million worth of art, a luxury yacht, and real estate. DiCaprio had to turn over the gifts he received from business associates at the production company. These included a Best Actor Oscar trophy won by Marlon Brando, a $3.2 million Pablo Picasso painting, and a $9 million Jean-Michel Basquiat collage. In a statement to Artnet News, DiCaprio's spokesperson wrote, "Prior to the government's filing of the civil pleading today, Mr. DiCaprio initiated the return of these items which were received and accepted by him for the purpose of being included in an annual charity auction to benefit his eponymous foundation. He has also returned an Oscar originally won by Marlon Brando, which was given to Mr. DiCaprio as a set gift by Red Granite to thank him for his work on The Wolf of Wall Street. Mr. DiCaprio is so grateful for the support of the government in this effort and continues to hope that justice is done in this matter." So in general, DiCaprio hasn't been embroiled in too many Hollywood scandals or controversies, aside from dating women half his age who could be his daughter, but I will say that him still not backing out of Belize is really not good, to say the least, and I hope he just cancels the entire thing. Like an eco resort for rich people, really? There's a line from Taylor Swift's song Is It Over Now, which I already quoted before in my first section, that goes, "You look in every model's bed for something greater." And I think that sums up DiCaprio's relationship to young women perfectly. Like, I think he's still just trying to be a kid and relive his peak, or at least what he thinks his peak was with Giselle, and looking for a woman to come in and be whatever he wants her to be, and then when they get too old, moves on to the next one. He never seriously dated a woman in her 30s. And sure, maybe they both go into this relationship knowing it's just a fun thing, nothing serious, whatever, but for him to just not ever grow up and get out of this phase of his life is a little concerning. And some people may say he's just living his best life, he's living every man's dream, what's the big deal? I'd say it's a big deal for a man to not ever grow up or want to grow up and be around women his own age, or at least be attracted to them. The most unbelievable part of Don't Look Up for me is that DiCaprio finds any of his romantic interests attractive when we all know he just wants to date girls who could be his daughters. It's hard to take him seriously as a romantic lead anymore when you see the kinds of women he actually partners with and thinks it's attractive. And I'm happy that no woman, or anyone for that matter, has spoken out that he's done something horrible to them, and I'm glad that he seems to be on good terms with the women he dates despite them being half his age. I guess you can make of him what you will, but I personally think it's totally weird for a 50-year-old man to be serially dating women in their early 20s, but maybe that's just me. I also think it's again weird that he didn't pull out of Belize yet and is still going to do further research on the resort he's planning to build despite being such a supporter of the environment. That's it for this one. Let me know what you think about Leo in this video down below. I personally like him as an actor. Catch Me If You Can and Revolutionary Road were seminal movies for me growing up, but ironically enough, as I've gotten older, I've outgrown him. So if you like this one, please give it a like and comment down below and share it with someone, and subscribe to see my next video, which will be about The White Lotus, and it will be coming out the Sunday after the season ends, which is tomorrow. So can't wait to see you then. Bye.